In this video, we're going to take a look at some paragraph formatting commands. Paragraph formatting commands cannot be applied to anything smaller than a paragraph. You can't apply them to a sentence or a word or characters within the paragraph. It's either all or none. So we're going to take a look at some of those commands. First command is line spacing, and there's two ways to do line spacing. We can go to the Home tab here, and we can go to our paragraph group and go to the line spacing button here, and we see that right now the default is 1.15. That's typically the default for most Word documents. If I want to make it a little bit smaller, I can change it to single spacing, and that applies just to this paragraph. Notice that the other paragraphs down below are still 1.15. If I want to do 1.5 spacing, I'm getting a live preview here, or double spacing, or 2.5, or triple. These are the options. Now, there's also a keyboard shortcut for each one of these. If you want a single space, it's Control 1, but it's already single space. Let's do Control 2. We'll double space. Okay, and Control 3 does not triple space. Control 2 and Control 1 will go back to single space. And if you want to do 1.5, there's a keyboard shortcut for that. It's Control 5, and I assume that came from the number 1.5 or 1.5. So Control 1 for single, Control 2 for double, Control 5 for 1.5. If you want anything other than that, you're going to have to go up here and select it. So that takes care of line spacing. Let's go back and restore this to the way it was before we started. Another option that applies only to a paragraph, I'll select a couple of paragraphs this time. You don't have to have the whole paragraph, you just have to have at least part of it selected. So I've got parts of 3 paragraphs selected here. And alignment is another command that applies to an entire paragraph. So all 3 of these paragraphs should accept the alignment commands that I'm about to give it. I can choose centering. All of my alignment commands are right here in the paragraph group on the Home tab, and I can center the lines. I can right align the lines within each paragraph, or I can justify the lines, which will give me a nice smooth margin over here on the right side for all 3 of those paragraphs. And there are keyboard shortcuts for these as well. The left alignment is Control L, and I just did the first paragraph. Let's select all 3 of them again, and I'll do a Control L again. Now they're all left aligned. Right aligned is Control R, and justified is Control J. So it's the first letter of all 3 of those. To center it, though, Control C is already spoken for. Control C is the copy command. So if we want to center, we need to use some other command, and the command for that is Control E. And the way I remember Control E is if something is centered, you have equal or even margins on both sides. And let's go back to Control L here where we started out. So alignment commands apply to entire paragraphs. Line spacing commands apply to entire paragraphs. And the other thing that applies to entire paragraphs are margins. I can change the margins quickly by going up here and dragging the left margin marker. The left margin marker is actually divided into 2 parts. The top part, which can be dragged separately, controls the first line. The bottom part here, which has 2 places to click, it looks like a house with a basement. We're going to click on the house part, the upstairs part. And if you, I missed it. Let's try it again. Got to move it a little higher. If I drag that, it controls where everything else, and that's not what it's supposed to do. I'm not sure why it did that. Let's try that again. So if I drag the basement, it moves the whole marker. If I drag this piece up here, it just moves the top part, which controls the first line. Let's move it back, and let's leave it there. And if I drag the basement, it moves both of them and keeps them separated by the same amount of space. And if I drag the top part down here, that controls everything except the first line. And I've also got a right margin marker over here, which I can drag back and forth, and that one's pretty straightforward because there's only one component to it. Okay. So that's one way. And again, if I want to do that to multiple paragraphs, just drag the mouse through as many paragraphs as you want to apply the commands to, and then apply the commands. And there's also some keyboard shortcuts here. Control M will increase the margin to the next tab stop. So every time I do a Control M, it increases. And if I want to undo that, it's Control Shift M. And the other one is Control T will give me a hanging indent, and Control Shift T will undo the hanging indent. So those are the basic commands that apply to entire paragraphs. We've got line spacing, we've got alignment, and we've got margins.